Hi everybody, it's Bill Miles from Vidigami, joined by Andrea Mullaney from Blackbaud and Lesley Coe from Cardinal Gibbons. We're going to get kicked off on the webinar here after a little bit of housekeeping. So we're going to be talking today about Blackbaud, Vidigami, and how Lesley at Cardinal Gibbons puts those things together and uses them to do some marketing, communications, and work with their parents, students, and staff. Awesome. So those are the three of us. Vidigami is an advanced photo management system that's designed for private schools. We have been in business for a number of years and have a lot of great, happy clients. And we're excited that Lesley's found us and is using Vidigami in some really cool ways that we think you're going to enjoy today. So we really use, Vidigami is really, the focus of it is help schools, marketing, communication, and the administration team really get organized and be able to share and organize their photos, videos, and content such as student works and the like. And its special sauce is really around the engaging of the parents at the schools. So everybody knows that parents are so important for re-enrollment and for word-of-mouth admission, fundraising, and supporting the overall culture and education of the school and the students. And Vidigami does a really wonderful job of communicating photos out using face recognition and integration with your SIS provider, those photos out to those parents, and really building a strong community at the school. Starting with parents and extending also to alumni, grandparents, the students themselves. And you'll see a bunch of ways that Lesley's using it to also be organized internally and provide those photos to her organization. Just broadly, when we're speaking to schools and we're kind of first introduced to a school, we see three areas that are, they really are, have opportunity basically. And the first area is really around the photos and videos that are flowing into the school and that are more and more. I think I was at Tilton recently and we talked about the first year that the cell phone came onto campus, and I think 2008. And from 2008 on, the number of photos and videos have just escalated, and the culture around photos, whether it's tagging or viewing photos on social media, sharing photos, in some ways the photos, replacing the written word in terms of our communication. And certainly so at the student and the millennial families, they're starting to bring students into the private school community. The next big piece we see is strategizing with schools around effective use of their memories, of these assets. How do we get them out to parents efficiently and effectively, in a timely manner, so that in the afternoon or evening when they're visiting with their child, they're talking about the events of that day and that are relevant and supporting the kind of educational mission of the school. How do we communicate, out to our alumni and engage them in the new building or the hockey team that's doing so well, or the arts performance that just happened? And then finally, we speak to a lot of legal rights and managing legal rights. We see that coming from a lot of the EU overseas as well as our Canadian schools. And it's starting to work its way into the U.S., particularly schools that have international students, where the idea of having the photos available publicly, a lot of photos publicly available through sites that allow that is really going away, and there's a lot more concern around where those photos are and when they can be seen and how might I be able to opt out a student and things like that. So those are the things we're seeing in the market that our solution addresses and that Lesley will touch on here as we jump over to the demo. And so I guess this is just kind of where we end up and why some of those trends matter to our schools. Is first and foremost, it's about time saving, it's about internal organization, and we'll see that with Lesley's use of Vidigami. And then the next piece is really around engagement and building a community, using photos and videos to do that. And the results at the end of the day are a bunch of positives that we're seeing. Re-enrollment, there's some quotes on the left from some of our schools and from some of the materials on this, the fundraising, and the other benefits of engaging your parents. So last slide for me is, at a high level, it's important to understand that Vidigami is a private community, that it is a situation where we are going to integrate with your SIS provider your data for your student, parent, and staff data. And we're going to work with you to invite those folks into the community. So Cardinal Gibbons has invited, staff, students, some of their parents into the community. And that way the sharing stays within the community. And because of that, too, we're able to make the content much more discoverable. We're able to engage folks in the community because we know relationships between parents, students, grandparents, alumni, et cetera, and keep that content very organized, but in a private and secure way. Of course, there's lots of reasons you want to share photos publicly out there, and Vidigami allows that, but it's going to make sure that that's done in a thoughtful way by the school and not in a way that you're just kind of dumping photos out on the web. So that's what we're up to at Vidigami. I think the exciting part is to see how it's actually implemented at a school. We're going to give Lesley control over the screen. And Lesley, you want to just kind of introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how you're using Vidigami?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. We're in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's a Catholic high school, and our enrollment is around 1,600 students.
Great. Awesome. And it's K through, 9 through 12?
No, it's 9 through 12 only, yes.
Yeah, K through,
we are 9 to 12.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
great.
It's a large enrollment for 9 through 12.
That's a big school.
Yeah, a lot of media to keep up
right.
with. I thought it might help to give a small history of how we landed on Vidigami, because I think Cardinal Gibbons, like all schools, has seen the exponential growth of our media production, and we really didn't have a good way to manage it. So for my role, it's both the instructional and the technical angle of where do I store this stuff? What do I have to continually back up? How do people access it? What do we share? How do we share it? And we have gone through, I would say, a variety of ways where we've tried to do that. And our most recent had been SmugMug prior to this. And I watched Vidigami as a company grow and decided to finally give it a whirl because it seemed to meet all of our needs. And for me, one of the great things is it's off-site management. But I also, the facial tagging recognition was probably one of the biggest selling points for me. We have so many students and families, and we just can't keep up with curating that content in the way that families want them sometimes. And Vidigami really is now is aiding that. So when a parent contacts us for photos of their kids from, her soccer season, I can just search by that kid's name and produce an album within seconds, whereas before we were actually clicking through photos on a hard drive somewhere in a media classroom. So we identified that there are sort of 3 buckets of our community that we are addressing through the use of Vidigami. And for us, it was admins, students, and our parent community. And then underneath, you can see that we put the 3 different ways that we were doing that. And for our admins, what we're finding is they need to curate content to change sort of our website photos. We try to change some of that monthly, some slideshows. We also do this really neat thing in our hallways where there are 8x10 photos of our students lining the halls in frames, and those get changed every few months. And we started curating albums in there that we can share together to identify photos that we may want to print in the future for the hallway. And I was going to show you a little bit of how some of that is happening. Okay, so this is my stream, my feed when I log into Vidigami. And what I was saying is, I was scrolling through here and I decided that this might make a great photo for our hallway.
Mm-hmm. And you print those photos, Lesley?
We do, but what we see, this is the problem. There we go. All right. Let me cancel it. Problem with my primary screen is it's tiny. All right, here we are. So without going too much into this, which I was going to hit a little bit later, in this case, the way we use this collaborative as an admin team is I go into a group set. I know that we curate these in Campus Life. And we have a folder called Hallway Favorites. So once that's there, anyone else who is part of that group can now see that. And what they'll do is they'll go ahead and, let me see. So here's my campus live work. So these are the things that we're doing. What we're doing with this set is we're using it two ways. And we're still in the process of building this one. I just made sure there were some things in it for today. But Hallway Favorites is also a public set. So this whole group will select all of these and download them and print those out as 8x10s for the hallway. But at the same time, because we made it a public set, we will go ahead and embed that slideshow on our website somewhere. So that's allowing us to update content in multiple places, or we might use it on our digital signage, because I'll add the embed code in, and then as we populate that album with more photos, all content is updated in multiple places. So that's one of the ways we're using it to kind of streamline.
And you could use that link for social media as well as your website, right?
Yes.
Lesley?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's cool.
Sometimes we'll tweet one after an event, but in this scenario, we like putting the embed code in and then just continually updating the album, because now you're updating in one source. And it's feeding either digital signage or a website or some other place where that code is sitting. And again, if they kept that link, sure, they could refresh that link and see that as well. But often our student department will tweet straight out of Vidigami so they can just send it right out.
That's great.
So
that's great.
The other way we do that, and I made one in my set so that you could see, but our advancement department, they actually are the ones who change the photos, like our header photos on our website monthly. So our advancement department will keep a my set so that it's not shared like this, and they will keep that content to themselves so that they can put it into the website, but they're curating for their own one specific task. So the person who's responsible for that is just curating a my set in that case, because they don't want that album to get confused with other albums.
Great. So look, Lesley, let me just back up a little bit, make sure everybody's on the same page. My question for you is going to be, how are you getting all this content into Vidigami in the first place? But you can answer that in a second. But just for everybody's benefit, the content's flowing in from somewhere. It's going into albums that Lesley and her team have set up. And what she's showing here is how she curates those photos into sets. Sets is kind of a technical term within Vidigami, and sets are curated sets of photos. And you can create my sets, which you just saw, or group sets, which seems like, or looks like what Lesley's doing there is using group sets to update content all over her school, whether it's a printed photo, a photo on her the website, or on social media. And it sounds like also you have screens throughout the school, or in certain missions where you're also updating those photos.
Yeah, we have.
Great. So how are you getting all the photos in? What's your strategy on getting photos into Vidigami?
Okay. So interestingly, we started the presentation with admin, but that probably should have been our last group. So we have a student media group, student journalism, photojournalism classes, and they often attend a lot of events. So our very first step actually was last summer. We uploaded all of the student yearbook photos and then tagged each of them with each student name just to sort of kick off the system. Then I went ahead and introduced the concept to our students. So under academics, so our process right now is for the photojournalism class, who is taking the bulk of our photos. You notice there's already 8,000, almost 9,000 photos in there. Okay. They attend an event, and they sort of photo dump in here and say, okay, here's all the photos I took. And then in their class time, they learn how to curate out of their photo dump into what are more manageable subsets of that information. So when they started, they were putting way too much in these, and we're working on paring that down and learning that. But that's part of their course, is to learn the difference between all the photos you took and the photos that you actually now want to share out. So they're generating, I would say, 90% of our content right now is coming from a small group of students that are explicitly attending events. And one of the things that we have done to help introduce the Vidigami language, the sets, the albums, all of those pieces, as well as help the kids understand that what a real photojournalist may or may not do is that they are using these event photo package sites, a Google site that we built. So if somebody wants them to attend an event, they would select one of these options and they'll fill out a form, but the important part is that this is what they're saying to them is, okay, we'll come to your event. We will upload an album within 48 hours without editing those photos. If you want some edited photos, you have to give us a week. You want more, we will do that in this time frame or this time frame. So we're giving options, but it's helping the kids structure their time and it's helping them build out Vidigami. The other thing that I went ahead and did.
Yeah, so it's kind of a win-win. It's a little bit,
Yep.
I think a lot of schools have photo sources they can kind of harness and bring into Vidigami, but you've gone a step further here and identified it's a class, right, at your school, or a group of students that come through photojournalism and structured out a way that they interact with the school so that they're learning something, but you're also getting not only a lot of photos, but also a curated set of good photos.
We are, and we found that one of the challenges was the vernacular, and that's why we built our photo packages using Vidigami language, because now we can help bring that language out to the school. So now everybody is talking about album versus set, my set, group set. They're using that language in ways that now make sense. So when they talk to their parents about it and families, it's all the same.
Yeah, and the faculty member or administrative member or coach that is asked for the coverage of this event, do they end up using the public set to distribute, or what are they doing with it?
So when they receive their public set is almost, I would say 99% of the time is tweeted out. Occasionally we also will embed it in our school website or on that athletic event page. I think we're using it as ways to engage with some of the families and making these things options. So then what we did next to get some of those other students involved, I actually bought a bunch of ice cream. I went into the cafeteria and I was like, hey, come here, check this thing out. Can you start tagging some photos for me? And the thing about kids is they're not afraid to log in and try it. And all of a sudden word just spread. Like if you just use the natural interest of a teenager, and word will just spread that this thing was there, and I enabled their accounts, and they only could tag, some could upload, that they had different permissions, but things are getting tagged and curated because my hope and my goal is that when every parent logs in, that they get to see their student experience at the school.
And that's awesome, Lesley. And so when you say tagging, and Vidigami has lots of ways to tag, are you having them apply contextual tags? Are you focused on face tags? Are you having them tag, just put them in albums? Or what type of tagging are you asking?
So the tagging, in terms of the album tagging, that really is something that I would say that we're trying to get our photojournalism students to do, which they're not doing very well as I'm looking at these examples. I am not asking the community at large to do that. Sometimes we're setting large tags. I'm mostly concerned about the facial tagging at this time because I think that's going to create the best experience for each user. So if a parent were to come in or a student were to come in and search for a name, well, there's 37 things that have happened with the student. Okay, and it started with the photo we uploaded of her school photo. So she
let's just stay on this
page.
Great. So this, just to orient, sorry, Lesley, I interrupted you just to make sure everybody's following. So you just went in and searched a student. You just went in to search a student, and it returned back every photo that the student has been tagged in, and that might be a tag that one of your photo students did, or one of your ice cream buddies did, or it could be that the system started to learn the student and actually started to do auto tagging, right? And so this has 37 photos of this student. And so what does this mean to you, or what does this tell you about the student? Yeah.
Well, this is, to me, this is the great moment where I get to show this to her mom. So like, I know that I tagged some of these. I know, and I remember these photos, and I tagged probably through Halloween. And this, I can tell, was later in the school year, and I know that we didn't tag that. So to me, that's telling me the system is starting to pick her up.
Right. Okay. So it's going to auto
me
tag
a story.
going forward.
I can tell the difference in an auto tag and what we've been tagging because we made such concentrated effort to really tag students in the beginning. But to me, it tells the story of her student life. Like, she's obviously involved in a variety of things, some of them seemingly ridiculous, some really important to the school's mission. But she has a good time,
yeah,
and I think she's an athlete.
Yeah, she likes to wear funny costumes.
Yes. Yes, and what's
that's
interesting,
awesome.
so had we had this a few years ago, because she's a senior, if we'd had this her freshman year, it would have told an even different story because she was not that kid 4 years ago.
Yeah, that's cool. And just a couple more notes for the group on face recognition to make sure we're communicating fully on it. So our system uses face recognition software, but you need to teach the system who the kids are. So it takes 4 to 5 good photos of the student before the system will pick up and start to auto tag, as Leslie's indicating here. So I just want to make sure people understand how it's working. It's not just like you load photos and magically we know who the kids are. It does take a little bit of ice cream and kid engagement to get the tags identified, the students identified. But once they're there, it does pick up, and it will go year to year, particularly for the older students whose faces don't change that much. Your younger kids, if you guys, if some of the listeners are at younger schools, they will have to be retagged every few years because the kids' faces change a bit. But that's really awesome, Lesley. So you really have activated your student population to help you here a lot. That's awesome.
We have. I just noticed something that I think would be important for people from a sort of an organizational standpoint. That was I feel like a big win for us. Was one of every other file system that we've used is structurally dependent, meaning you have to know the folder it's in, the subfolder, and you have to follow that trail or you can't find the photos. So for years, we have had tons of fantastic photos that nobody can find because no one knows what anyone named the folder. So the thing that I really enjoyed about Vidigami is that an album can live here in the photojournalism class. This is a swimming album that they can also place in another group called swimming and diving. So if somebody is a part of the swimming and diving group, that will show up for them there too. You don't have to know that the photojournalism class took the photos. So for me,
and 2 more points on that.
Very huge thing.
Yeah, 2 more points on that too, Lesley. Is we're not copying all the photos everywhere. We're just using aliases, so it makes it nice and efficient from a storage and kind of usability standpoint. And the other part is if you search at the top, swimming, if you just remember swimming, you're going to pull up all the, the album names with swimming in it too. So I've never seen an internal server system where you can kind of search in the way that Vidigami works. So there's a bunch of ways to find it, which are pretty cool, that should help you discover your content a lot better.
There are ways that make sense to schools, and to me that was actually one of our largest wins. People search, that's all they do now. So if we can be good in the front end initially about teaching that behavior, it has made a huge, huge difference. And then our other really important group was our parent group, and that's where I saw some actual magic happen. So we have a very, very engaged family association, which is like PTA in some schools. And we decided as a gift to them for all of their gifts that they give to the school, we were going to give them like early access to this magical new photo system. And what we did is I went to one of their board meetings with a few students, and we sat in there and listened to their board meeting stuff. But we actually were very intentionally taking photos on our phones, just observing their meeting. And what I did, here they are, just coming into their meeting, doing their activities. We're taking all these photos, and when I got up to explain Vidigami to them, all I did was show the slideshow of everything that had just happened in the last half hour. And that's when they got it. They understood. It was so easy to show them that from my phone, we just dropped all those photos in there, and it was already live. And to me, it was so much more powerful to show them than to try to walk somebody through this or explain it in any other way. And then as you can see, what they've started to do is we have given uploading rights to certain parents. And when they have parent days of service or other activities, they're uploading and creating albums of their events as well.
And Lesley, if I remember our conversation, you haven't launched this out to your parent group at large. You're really kind of learning and working with this group, and perhaps next school year you'll kind of launch more broadly. But I just wonder on these parents, do you get any reaction when they see photos of their kids on their feed and things like that? Are you starting to see that?
Of course you do.
Yeah. Just asking, Lesley, you know.
I know. I mean, come on. Prior to that meeting, I made sure that there were photos of each of their kids in because I wanted that experience. Like, I'm also a parent, and I know what it's like. Like, everybody wants to see their kid. They just do. And there is going to be something great about I'm a parent and I'm a former coach, and I know at the end of every season, one of the biggest things is to do a slideshow or a photo book or something, some kind of takeaway memory or gift. And somebody has been begging the team parents for all these photos all this time. And now all they have to do is go through them and search by the name of the team, search by a kid that's on the team, what the team is, and they're going to have all these albums to pick from. So if I'm a freshman soccer parent mom and I'm like, oh, look, that's my kid, I can just like the photo and later on go back and see, oh, what things have I liked? And I'm already building a set of myself, apparently. But so there's ways for people to use this, and I just think the power of it is actually going to be seen within the next few years. So yes, we've actually enabled all the parent accounts, but we're right now working with word of mouth on parents and just seeing what happens. Good,
and they're mostly using, in my experience, the mobile app, right, to view and then upload. So and that's been working for the parents that are on it.
Yeah, they're doing that all via the app because one less step for me to have to upload and move their stuff over is probably better for all of us. So that's how I introduce it to them via the app, and they all probably, I think, downloaded it that day. And because then you see them all gathering around each other's phones, oohing and ahhing about their things that their kids have done, because you don't always see your kids' school day. You see a lot of your kids' after-school events, but you don't always see the school day. So they get this kind of nice peek into what student life has really been like for their kid. And I think at the end of the day, you just want to know that your kid's loved and cared for and having a good day, and this just helps enforce that. Right.
It's hard to write that in an email. That. You know, dear Lesley, your kid had a wonderful day, right? It's having a picture is, somehow a lot better.
Actually.
Cool. And Lesley, I want to leave some time for questions. I know we were trying to keep it to about 30 minutes or so.
Yep.
Do you have something else that you want to highlight or you had on your list? Great. I think we'll just open it up for questions. That's some really awesome information. What I love about it, Lesley, is that you guys haven't even launched to the parents, and you're finding a lot of value because, I think a lot of schools are like very focused. We've got to get to the parents. That's like the big win. But there's a lot of wins along the way for you guys, and I think that's a great part of the story here. And I can't imagine when you launch to all your parents what's going to happen there. They're going to be running into your office giving you kisses and hugs or something.
Some of them will.
Yeah, Lesley, that was awesome. Great chatting with you on this call, and I'm glad we got to spend some time together here to share what you're doing. So super, and have an awesome day.
You as well.